Hello and welcome to the Medins. We've been getting to know all the different individual family groups, and now it's Mikela's my turn. But instead of interviewing myself and my wife, we thought we'd bring the best interviewer in the house, Debra.
Who has never done an interview before.
I'm going to say, I wonder how many people will hear from after this, like, the best, really.
Or they'll be like, no, you're right, she is way better.
Shon thought about getting a little cardboard cutout of himself with pre-recorded questions, just to press play for each one.
And just keep switching to me dressed differently, or occasionally slip in a image of PJ and everyone, oh, that was Shon. I think everyone might be like, no, Debra's going to take over Welcome to the Medins now. I wouldn't mind.
I don't know. Every time I'm like, wait, can I say that? Wait, am I going to get in trouble for saying that?
But see, if you're the one
I've said that.
If you're the one asking the questions, you don't have to think about it.
No, I still do.
This is going to go great, guys. This will be an experiment for all of us, but I'm looking forward to seeing the end product.
Just know internally, I'm sweating. Like a lot. I'm very nervous.
Well, Debra, to kind of help slide into things, maybe before you get started, we'll give a word from our sponsor, the Med City Moonshots, a phenomenal organization that is, their mission is to show that people with special abilities aren't just glorified spectators in life. They can actually contribute a lot. In particular, their organization is within the arena of sports, baseball to be particular, and they get to do all sorts of really cool things, like play with Major League Baseball organizations like the Twins, or even some minor leagues like the Rochester Honkers. So if you'd like to keep up with them, I'd encourage you to check out the Med City Moonshots on Facebook, like their page, and keep an eye out for the different events that they have going on in and around Minnesota. I think they're even getting into like Wisconsin, Iowa, and the surrounding states too, as their organization is growing exponentially. It's absolutely awesome. All right, Debra, what questions? What
None.
questions do you have for me? And
None prepared.
Okay, wait. I did prepare within the last minute, okay? Did you not just see me taking notes? On my note, yeah. Preparation. Okay, well, what are your names? How old are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mikela. I'm 25. Most of the time, I still say I'm 21 when I fill out forms at the hospitals and stuff because I forget.
Are you still putting your maiden name down too? No.
I've gotten past the maiden name, although not for any of the siblings. All the married siblings are still Medin in my phone.
Yeah, no, same. It's just easier to find them that way if we group everyone together. I am convinced, well, I haven't done it yet, but I might change Tyler, like Tyler's last name and James's last name, so that they're all just grouped together.
Yeah, all the married ones come to Medin.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I was like, it's easier to find it, but then you may not switch them in your phone, but you started switching them in my phone. Catherine, who I've affectionately called Quaff for as long as I can remember, you speak Quaff Medin in my phone, and I'd be like, call Quaff Medin, because my phone can't say Quaff Medin. And finally one day Mikela was like, no, it's Lexfold. She got married. Her name changed. I was like, so? So she's like, I'm going to change it right now on your phone. I was like, babe, no, leave it alone. It's my phone. And next thing I knew, my phone was saying, call Quaff Lexfold.
Now that you bring that up, I need to do Sarah Greenwood, too.
I was about to say, Mikela, don't touch my phone.
Yeah, baby, you aren't allowed to touch my phone. Getting back to your question, Debra. My name is Shon Medin. I'm number 3 in the lineup of children here in the Medins, and I am 28 years old. I like to think that I'm still in my mid-20s. My wife makes fun of me for that all the time. It just helps me feel younger, longer.
Shon's mid-20s started when he was 25, or 26.
25. No, yeah. They started when I was 26, because I was still in my early 20s, and 25, because it was the first half of 10. Rather than the last, so now I'm in my...
I know at 5 you round up.
Yeah, now you're in your late 20s. Well, you actually are.
I'm in my early 30s.
Someone asked me how old Catherine was the other day, and I was like, okay, if I'm this old, then that means that Sarah must be like this old, and then if Sarah's that old, that must mean that Catherine. I was like, I think she could be around this age, give or take a year. No idea. How old were you guys when you guys met?
Originally, Mikela was just she was doing a practice session in her mic for me, and she said that we met.
I didn't. That wasn't a real number.
Oh,
but
really?
I think I was 16 because I'm pretty sure I could drive. think I was driving to church. Well, so we met at church. That wasn't your question. How old were we?
No, you took a question that I had.
It was
met
like,
at
darn it, that
church.
was the last question I had. I have nowhere else to go.
I think I was 16. It might have been 15 when I first started coming.
And I'm 3 years older than you, so I was probably 18 or 19. And I remember seeing her walk into church, and I was just like, wow, she's really cute. And somehow or another, Mikela must have sensed that I had that thought in my head before she even realized I was in the room, and was probably like, some boy here thinks that I'm really cute. Because
it was because you walked up to me and talked to me as soon as I
and
came
said,
through the door.
"You're really cute."
Actually, you got PJ to do it because you were too nervous.
I needed PJ to be my wingman, and because I was like, if I go up alone, she's definitely gonna know that I think she's cute. So it's like, hey, PJ, you need to come with me. We need to introduce ourselves.
It is our duty as the members at this church
to get her to
welcome
keep
the
coming,
newcomers.
so that she can one day date me. And so I was like, PJ, come on. And he's like, you need me to be your wingman? I was like, not really. Yeah, I do. And so we went over and I introduced myself, and I was like, yeah, no, she has no idea.
Then he never talked to me again. So
Did he have like a really low voice? Like, did he like, hello?
I don't remember that part at all.
I like fancy things, and I'm mature. No, I introduced myself to you, and I introduced myself to your parents, because like, I definitely, in order to be able to date her, I need to have an in with her parents. So I met your dad right off the bat too.
Fast forward like 5 years later, he asked my dad permission to marry me when we weren't even dating.
It
We haven't
worked.
gotten that far. Okay, one step at a time.
Gee whiz, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
People don't even know we're married yet.
So you were saying that you met and then he didn't talk to you or anything for...
He likes to think that he did, but it was never in person. He messaged me on Facebook a few times.
No, she also kind of talked to me one time, because I saw her exit the sanctuary, probably to go to the bathroom. And I was like, I know how I'm going to get her to talk to me. PJ, I need to borrow Lexi for a second. And he was completely okay with it. And so I brought Lexi out to the hallway, and I was walking with her. This is back before she would walk, and we were like doing the cute little baby walk where she held onto my hands. And Mikela came over. I was like, yes, here we go. And then she just immediately went, oh, you're so cute. What's your name? And didn't say a word to me, just talked to my niece. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go back into service. It's like, darn it.
You work too well.
So thank you, Lexi, for getting Mikela to sort of talk to me the first time.
And then what happened? How did you guys reconnect?
Then I left for college, so it was probably 3 years later or so. I moved back to where the town we were going to church. I moved back in with my parents and was wanting to get connected with church again. And I had originally thought of going to some different churches and just kind of had the thought, no, I should check out that one again. And so I started going to church, and the youth leader at the time saw me, and I had been a part of the youth group before. And he said that I should come and check it out again. And then after that first time of going to youth group, Shon stopped me at the end of it and said, so what do you think? Do you think you're going to be a youth leader? What do you think of youth groups?
What are your intentions of being here? What is your life plan?
Yeah.
Shon's known for asking very intense questions.
Are you looking for a husband? I might know a guy.
But so then after talking, after youth group, we started messaging on Facebook. And this time I was actually interested in responding.
That's good. Off to a good start.
Yeah. So then we just talked more and more through Facebook, and then he asked me on, don't worry, it's not a date, lunch.
Through
Which means
Facebook, because
it's a date.
I was classier than to ask a girl out on a date through Messenger.
Which is exactly what he said. He didn't say, no, I don't want to ask you out on a date or, anything else. He's like, don't worry, I'm more classy than to ask someone out through Facebook.
I have a question. Why were you messaging over Facebook and not just texting?
Oh, so I have this thing about not asking for numbers. And we were just messaging. I don't know. That's just kind of how we were connected, because I had messaged her throughout the couple of years, occasionally just touch base, to which I'd usually get K responses back to whatever I said. And so it was just a means of communication we already had set up, and our messages were getting like super, super long, and we discovered there's a limit in Facebook Messenger. There is.
To the number of characters.
Yeah, to the number of characters you can
How
have.
many is it?
Very long. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten some long messages before.
And then she was like, you could, I think you said, you could call me, right?
No, it was because we hit the character limit, and I said, why don't you just text me?
Oh.
And I gave you my
Bold.
number.
Yeah.
Love that. You go,
She
Mikela.
knew what she wanted, and she got it.
I don't know if this was brought up in past, but I remember, was it Dad or PJ saying something about when we were at a church event, like what is the place called?
High Point?
No, not, I know what our church is called. No, when they do the extra events after churches, after church.
I think it was back to church Sunday.
No, it wasn't at church. It was like at the Ironwood Springs Christian camp. That's what it was.
Ranch.
Yes. Yes. And then you said something about how you thought she was really pretty, and they're like, go talk to her. And then they said, we're not leaving.
That was at church, in the church.
Oh, that
parking
was
lot.
church?
Yeah, that was
Your
back
mic.
to church.
I'm a really good listener.
Back to church Sunday.
Yes, and I was too nervous because we had talked a lot, and I should have been like, oh, she'll totally say yes, but I have this thing where I can't really tell if a girl likes me unless she just straight up tells me, and Mikela hadn't done that yet, and so I was like, I don't even, what if she says no? We go to the same church, and like that'd be awkward, and I'm a youth leader, she's kind of a youth leader now, and I think Drew finally just pushed me over there, so thanks, Drew. And I was
He's the whole reason we're married.
and then I asked, and he said, yeah. I don't remember where we went, though. Was that the time you made me a salad, and you didn't like salad either?
I don't remember.
Was that a different time?
I don't know. I think that was a different time. I don't
Okay.
remember what exactly was that time that you came over after the church event.
Yes.
I remember hearing about some of your dates, and I was like, sounds like someone's right for Shon.
What does that mean, Debra?
I think it was mostly like what you guys like to eat. Like Shon is very particular about what he likes to eat, not picky. And you are very like the random things that he would like, or like you're 20-something, you should like salad. And Shon's like, I don't like salad. And then Mikela's like, I don't like salad either.
So what happened was that at youth group, one of the youth leaders gave a message about standards. And so all the leaders and the kids were going around talking about what our standards were and what we were trying, new standards we were trying to set. And Shon talked about how he wanted to start eating more fresh foods, like things like salad. And so later that week when we went on a date, I spent like 2 hours putting together this elaborate salad that was, like a very entry salad. It was mostly other stuff, not lettuce. And we went to a park, and I unpacked all of the salad stuff, and we, built our salads. And as we were going to take a bite, we both just kind of hesitated. And I was like, I don't want to eat salad. And he's like, oh, thank goodness you don't like salad. I was like, no, I just made it for you. He's like, I don't want salad.
But we both took a bite. We both gave it a try.
Yeah.
And then we decided to go to Pie Pizza immediately afterward, where we ran into Catherine and Drew. while Drew was on his lunch break from work. What?
I was going to say, which ended up being a pivotal moment because we chose to sit with Drew and I chose to sit with Drew and Catherine. I was the first one.
Way to get into the
to
family.
check out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, what do I do? Do I sit with them? Do I sit by ourselves? This is supposed to be a date, but they're here. That's awkward. What do we do? And I chose to sit with Drew and Catherine. And Shon was like, oh, great. She's into my family. And I remember you saying something about how it
Impressed
made you
him.
impressed you.
It did.
Yep.
I feel like Drew is the one that's like if Drew likes you, you're good to go.
We also went to the mall one time for one of our first dates, and sorry, can I move it this way? I'm talking to Debra.
She's not talking to me throughout this interview. It's just Debra.
She is
I'm
the
a spectator.
one interviewing us.
That's true.
But we went to the mall for one of our dates and met Drew there. And I was terrified the whole time. Like, what am I supposed to say? What if I say the wrong thing? Drew is very intimidating for anyone who hasn't met him.
I'm intimidated by Drew sometimes.
But then sometime later on, Drew and PJ stopped me. This was after now we were boyfriend and girlfriend. Drew and PJ came up in the hallway and stopped me and said something about how they thought that I was the one for Shon or something like that. So then I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about Drew anymore. So we're good.
Now I can do whatever I want.
Is that intimidating at all? Like meeting your significant other's family and then being like how long were you guys dating by that point?
That was after we had dated for probably 3 months or so.
Like I've never been in a relationship, so clearly I have so much advice to give. But like I feel like that's still a pretty short amount of time. So was it intimidating hearing like such a direct, like I don't know how to describe it, but like such like an intense sentence, statement.
No, because before Shon and I even started dating, I felt like he was the one. And we both kind of sensed that throughout the beginning of our relationship. Like there's a lot of prayers, something along the lines of like, we feel like this is it, but we don't want to jump ahead of you, God. And so we want confirmation from you if this is meant for marriage or not. Like, and we would I remember we always talked about how we were just holding it loosely in our hands for in case, just for if we were meant to be together, or if this was just for a period of time. And when Drew and PJ said that, it was actually after Shon and I had chosen to break up. And so I think it was like a no, don't do it kind of thing.
Please don't leave us. Take him.
He's 24 going on 25 and we still can't get rid of him.
So it wasn't intimidating because I had also sensed it, and that's what I wanted. And I knew that was what I wanted by that point.
I was going to bring up, I didn't know, because obviously I know your whole relationship, but I didn't know what you want to talk about, what you didn't want to talk about. So since you brought it up, can you dive into your dating time period and all that comes with it? Explain
so do you
want
to be here for like 4 hours?
But like Cliff Notes.
Oh, so Mikela will tell you.
I already mentioned that right away we kind of felt like this was it. So we were very intentional about we are in this because we could picture ourselves marrying each other. Like, you're the kind of person that I would want to marry. And that's what we wanted. There was a few times throughout dating that things would come up about the future that we weren't sure if what we saw for our futures aligned. And that's what ultimately caused us to break up a few months into our relationship. Or so I thought. Apparently on Shon's end, it was him dealing with some stuff from his past and needing to work through that. But all of the, like, potential not matching about our futures was the cover up for that, which
there
I
was still
found out
aspects of
after
that
we got
too.
back together.
Like music, breakthrough being like a bigger part of our lives. Like you at that time were talking about like, no, I want to have like a picket fence and I want to know my neighbors. And I was like, well, I want to be on the road and I want to raise my family on the road and play music and do that. And you were like, well, I don't really want to do that. And so, I mean, there was aspects of that too, but thankfully those were also kind of covering up aspects of my past that I just, at that point in time, didn't want to talk about. And, you know, I thought it'd be bad to bring up my past in our relationship. And so I was like, let's just stick with this. And this is a good enough thing.
Yeah. So when we broke up, everything in me wanted to be with him, but if our futures, at that point, we thought that our futures, what we wanted for our futures weren't aligning, that then it wouldn't, if our futures didn't match, then that would mean that we weren't going to get married. And if we weren't going to get married, it wouldn't make sense to date, because at that point, dating would be just because we enjoyed being with each other and not because it was leading to marriage. So when we broke up, everything in me still wanted to be with him, but out of honor for the Lord and not just being with him just to be with him, we broke up. And then it was New Year's Eve, and Shon didn't want to end the year.
I always get made fun of for this.
On a breakup. And so he said, why don't you still come along to the New Year's party that we were going to go to, and we'll break up tomorrow. And actually we didn't, when we broke up at first, it wasn't a breakup. It was like, let's have some space, not talk to each other every day, just see each other at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. And just have some space for each other and see if God changes either of our hearts, which was key for if God changes my heart, because you've been set on breakthrough forever. And so we didn't break up at that point. But yeah, Shon was like, why don't you still come to this party? And then tomorrow we can break. It's much better to start the year with breaking up rather than end the year with breaking up.
Clean slate.
And then at breakfast the next morning, we all, went.
This story comes up a lot more than I wish it would.
That's because it's hilarious.
I don't think I've heard this story, so keep going.
You were probably there.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had spent the night in Shon's sister's room, and at the next morning on New Year's Day, we were all eating breakfast up in Shon's grandparents' side. And Shon's dad said, everyone go around and say a goal, something that you want to do in 2018.
Yeah.
And when it got to Shon's turn, he said, I want to be married or at least engaged by the end of the year. As I was sitting right there, and I didn't even think anything about it. But then later on, talking with other siblings, they were like, I can't believe you said that. With Mikela right there.
And it was you.
It was me.
Yeah, so we broke up and gave it some time, and I think about a month later, Mikela was like, yeah, we're actually going to break things off. And at that, like, my heart actually, like, broke. And so I was just, for my side, I was spending a lot of time, like, praying for my wife, like I had over all the years that I had been praying for her, and I was like, God, all right, get Mikela off my mind and put my wife on my mind. And wherever she is, bless her, protect her, keep her safe. And please bring her to me. Bring her through the church doors if that's what it takes. Like, I need you to do this. And Mikela kept coming up on my mind. I was like, God, I said not Mikela, I said my wife. And so then Mikela kept coming up. And, of course, it was pretty easy because I would see her every Wednesday at youth group because she was a youth leader, and every Sunday at church for usually both services. And at one point I realized I couldn't really like not do life without her. And so I texted her and said, hey, can we talk? And then I texted one of my mentors.
My birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday. I texted one of our mentors and I was like, hey, I wanted to talk with Mikela about this. And they were like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that yet. But I'd already texted Mikela saying, hey, could we talk?
So instead of saying never mind or anything along those lines, he just didn't text me back ever.
I wanted to be chased too. And at that point, I just kept praying, and Miguel just kept coming up more and more in my heart, and finally, I did set a time for us to talk after youth group, and that Wednesday I also went to go see a buddy of mine play in Rochester, but like the whole entire time I was thinking, like, I'm going to be talking with Mikela. I have this amazing song that just perfectly describes how I feel, and she's never heard it before, and so once she hears it, she's going to take off the headphones I have, and she's going to give me a big hug, and we're going to be good, solid, and now we're going to go through to marriage. And so I got back to the youth group after youth had ended, and I pulled her aside and said, here, listen to this song. And it was one by Callum Scott, You Are the Reason. I put the headphones on, and I just sat right there as she listened to it. I was like, here it comes, the chorus. Yeah, that's really going to get her. And then the song ended, and I pressed pause, and she took the headphones off, and I was just like, waiting for the hug.
I just looked at him and didn't say anything. Waited for him to start.
And so then I told her what my heart was, and I wanted to get back together. And then she told me that she could picture marrying me, but not dating me. And
That's my favorite line.
Famous line.
Yeah, I think that's what this episode should be labeled. I want to marry you, but like not date you.
Yeah. And so I was saying, oh, well, just jump into marriage. All right. I mean, that's what my heart wants anyway. And I was just so confused, but she wasn't really giving me a sign like, okay, we're good to go.
I explained everything, and he said that it made sense.
My mind turned off and started going all sorts of directions when he said, I could picture marrying you, but I can't picture dating you. And then my ears stopped working. And I was like, what does that even mean? Women, they're so confusing. And after that, I guess she explained it. I talked to my dad and my mom because I was freaking out about it. And my dad was like, calm down. That means that there's hope. That means she wants to marry you. You want that. That's the end goal. She doesn't want to date you for some weird reason. And my mom, I think, said quietly under breath, because you're angry all the time. And I was like, all right, God help me, and just started spending a lot of time in prayer, and then was trying to talk to Mikela, be like, let's just start dating, like they'll fix it all. And Mikela had started praying too, and she said, I feel like from the Lord that we should give each other a month of, let's go back to not really talking except for, the polite saying hello, goodbye at church and at youth group, like no communication throughout the week, and just pray. And so we did that. And I very reluctantly, I said no at first. And I was like, no, that's stupid. Like, let's just date because we're going to get married. Like, that's what you said. And I got off the phone with her, and I called Dad, and I reported the conversation to Dad so he could help me discern what in the world she said. And he's like, Shon, it might be better if you listen and let her like really speak and maybe even go with what she's saying. Give it that month. And I was like, fine. So I called her back, and I was like, okay, we can do this month. So stupid, but we can do it. And we started to go that way. And at the beginning of that month, I was like, what I'm going to do though? I'm going to start writing her a note every day and put in this cute little jar that she had given me that was full of notes she had given me once upon a time, and a note every day for whatever I'm feeling, whatever I think about her that's cute and positive. And about 6 days into it, I was going to write the 6 days note, and it was late at night. I was laying on my bed, and then all of a sudden, like, God just downloaded into me how I was supposed to propose to her. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I gotta remember all this. And then I felt that after that, I was supposed to write on that note, will you marry me? Because God told me I was going to propose, which meant we were going to get married. So on that note, I wrote, will you marry me? And then the 7th day, I wrote, I love you, because we had said we weren't going to say I love you until we got engaged and we knew it was forever. And then I just kept working backwards from there, and every day faithfully putting that note in that jar. So that way at the end of the month, I'd be able to give it to her. Excuse me. And so the end of that month came, and we had scheduled that we were going to have our conversation and like what God had said, what we had learned. And we met at our favorite Caribou over by where I worked at the time.
Also the Caribou where we decided that we were going to break up.
And also the Caribou that during that month of no talking, I'd asked her parents if I could marry her. I bought her engagement ring during the month that we weren't talking, after God had told me I was supposed to propose to her. And so I bought the engagement ring as like a statement of faith. And so I had the engagement ring. I had asked her dad if I could marry her, and he and her mom thought I was absolutely crazy, but they're already weird together, so this just kind of makes sense.
I had also told my parents that I thought God had told me that I was going to marry Shon and that I wanted to marry Shon. And so they said yes because they knew that that was what I wanted, not because some weird guy just came to ask them to marry their daughter.
That's true. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And so then at Caribou, I just poured out my heart to her, and I said, I love you, and I want to marry you. And
I really like you.
Yeah, like super much.
Really I like you.
And I just let my heart known, and then she went, I feel the same. I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because that whole month, she gave me nothing.
I tried. I put like 2 little notes in your backpack that you just never found because your backpack is so full of stuff that you don't know where anything is.
I did. I just couldn't find the notes. They were hiding somewhere. I think she slipped in like the very back. But yeah, from there at that point, then I was like, I'm going to propose to her a month later. And so I talked with Catherine, who is the director of youth ministries at our church, and got everything set up with her. And she's like, all right, you can preach that night. We're going to do a series on relationships, and we'll make it all fancy, so that way we have a good excuse to have a photographer and a videographer there. And you and Mikela are back together, so you can ask Mikela to be your assistant for this message. And I was going to give a message on the 5 love languages. And so that night finally came, and it turned out to be on the anniversary of when her parents got married. And so all of our youth showed up dressed as, nice as youth students who don't really like getting dressed up can get dressed up. And I had my parents there, her parents, and a few other very key family members waiting down the lobby, and we were live streaming the message down to them. Debra, you were taking pictures. Leah was doing the videography. And so I started giving a message. First was on, I think it was a touch. And then...
he pushed me off a bench.
Yeah. It was really...
Romance. It's alive.
Love hurts. And then, is it acts of service? So, let's see. Acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, quality time, and one of the other one, I forget what it is. But all leading up to
Gifts. It's gifts.
Yeah.
That's the engagement ring.
Yeah.
All leading
That's
up
a
to gifts.
good
I know, right?
gift. I would love to get that gift.
From the right
Debra
guy.
Medin, everyone.
And so the second to last one was words of affirmation. So I had a youth student who had been praying for us as well. Gave her the jar to or I'd taken a few notes out, the I love you note and then the will you marry me note. Handed Mikela the I love you note, and she took it, and like I wanted her to read it while I was still giving the message, and she would not read it. She just like took it and was like watching, which is very sweet that she was, want to be respectful and not get distracted, but it's like, please read the note. Like, I need you to start getting the idea of what's about to happen. And she wouldn't read. I said, you can read it. And so she'd open it, and I'd start talking. She'd close it again. And I said that like twice, and finally I just said, read it. And
I thought he wanted me to read them aloud in front of our whole entire youth group. And I didn't want to read little love notes in front of our whole youth group to all the kids.
Thus starting the fact that communication is key in a relationship. And then I was about to go into the last part of it, which was gifts, and so I gave her the last note. What?
I was just going to say, I did read the I love you, Mikela note, and so then I was mad at him for telling me that he loved me, because I thought, even if it's in a message, you can't just tell me that you love me.
Yes, I can. It's godly at that point. And so the last note was, will you marry me? From the day that God had told me that I was going to propose. And that one she just would not read. And I needed her to read it, like, so bad, because that was going to be like her emotions start coming. She's supposed to bawl her eyes out. It's going to be super cute. And she just held it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's not going the way I want it to. And I said, and some gifts in a good relationship will change your life forever. And so then I said, read the note. And I started moving like my hand into my suit jacket pocket and moving to get on one knee, but then the ring got stuck in the box, and I was like, oh no. So like just jerked to my jacket, got it out, and I think he opened it to read it, but it didn't seem to click.
I remember that.
And so I got down on one knee, opened the ring box right in front of her, and I guess she thought I was kidding.
I thought it was part of the message.
I got this ring for $0.25 out of a quarter machine. Just go along.
Claire's.
Yeah. And I said, will you marry me?
I said, what?
And then she waited.
Like
and
3 or 4 seconds.
It felt like forever. And I was like, will you marry me? And then she's like, yeah. I know. And so then we awkwardly like stood up and like, okay, I think we're engaged now. And she like kind of hesitantly handed me her hand. I like awkwardly slid the ring on, and my sister Catherine knew that like this is a really awkward moment. And so she just like turned the music up in the room and started going, yay! And got everyone clapping. And then it was like hugs. And I don't think you had cried yet until your mom came up there. But it was funny. And I'd reference this in the podcast with PJ and Holly. So I said every great relationship starts out with a lie. Mm-hmm. So the day before I was going to propose to her, we went on this date around Rochester, just really cute date, just us. And we went and we sat in a park, and it was nice. We were just sitting on a swing, on like a bench swing together. And Mikela goes, you know what's kind of funny? I was like, what? And I always love a good funny thing. She goes, I think you're going to propose to me tomorrow. And I was like, oh no. How do I, just in my mind, and I'm trying to keep it cool because I'm not that great at lying. I'm like, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? What do I say?
He's like, well, I would love to propose to you tomorrow, but rings are expensive. Like, I went looking the other day, and do you know how much they cost? And this whole long thing about how expensive rings are, enough that it truly convinced me that he wasn't going to propose. So then the next evening, I did not think it was real because he is such a good liar.
Every good relationship starts with a lie. But we got engaged, and
The rest is history.
yeah.
And now we're here.
So I had my goal. I got engaged in 2018 to the woman who was at the table who got to hear the goal at the beginning of the year. So that should have also been a dead giveaway that clearly that was going to happen.
Yeah, the timeline of your guys' relationship is pretty interesting to look at. I remember just being on the third party side of everything, being like, she said what? Like to the whole, I want to marry you, but I want to date you. And then and now are you together or are you not together? Like that was the whole, like, are they dating today? Are they not dating today? Do they want to get married? Like, what is going on? And I have never been nervous. I've been at a lot of the siblings' proposals, and I've never been so nervous. Like, is she going to say yes? What is going to happen if she says no?
In front of
I
everyone.
had a message prepared, like the end of the message prepared for if she said no. I was going to be like, and sometimes gifts don't go over that well.
I gotta go.
And ignore the fact that I'm crying. I feel really close to this hypothetical situation that, of course, wouldn't happen in real life.
Yes, it was a big relief when you said yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were officially engaged until we actually said I do, because that question mark at the end of the yeah.
What has been what's your favorite memory of your dating period?
I think one of mine, apart from the salad thing, being that I didn't like salads and she didn't like salads, which was obvious that we were meant to be at that point in time, was really the night that I think my heart knew that I loved her, but I didn't fully recognize it. Was after we had started dating, kind of early on in that dating stage the first time. We would have long conversations on the phone, and then at the end of the conversations, usually in the evening before I go to bed, we'd pray for each other. And that night, I had said something earlier in our conversation. It was just like a very minor detail of something I liked, or just maybe something I was nervous about, or
I think it was one of your pet peeves.
Maybe that sounds like, and I have quite a few of those. But just a little detail in the conversation, like an hour later or a couple hours later, we finally prayed. And Mikela brought that up in the prayer. And somehow my heart like leapt, and I uncontrollably like jumped in the bed and just like tensed up. It was almost like I was having a seizure, but like a good one, where I felt so warm and light, and like what true love feels like. I know it sounds cheesy, but that was like, I remembered that later on in the relationship, and that's kind of what got me back to like, oh no, my past no longer matters, and whatever is to happen in the future, like, it's in God's hands. I really do love her, and I need to be married to her. So that's probably one of my favorite memories. What?
That was like 2 weeks into us talking. That one.
John gets attached real fast.
Well, no, I was just going to say that wasn't the thing that got you over your past.
Well, no, but part of that helped me get over it, because I had to realize I really loved you, and it wasn't just like a fall fling, because we started kind of dating in the fall.
Isn't it like a summer fling nowadays?
I think it's spring fling is what it is, but it was just, I remembered that, and I realized that the love went deeper than infatuation.
So later on, when you were dealing with your past, you went back to thinking of that night and it helped?
Yeah. The conversation with my dad is really what
Yeah.
turned me around. But that was what that helped solidify that, no, I actually love her, and therefore I know that this is supposed to happen.
Conversations with John Medin will turn you around.
So being threatened to get kicked out of the house. What about you, babe?
I was going to say just our phone calls at night. I remember when we were dating, talking on the phone and praying together was my favorite part of the day. And so I just loved praying with, like, talking with him on the phone, but especially praying with him on the phone. And then a lot of times we'd fall asleep with the phone still on because I wouldn't want to say goodbye. So we would just keep our phones on next to our heads. And I remember I would ask, I had one of those like Google things or like Alexa or something.
Yeah.
And I would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, Alexa, what time is it? And it would wake him up on the other end of the phone. I don't think he said anything for a few weeks. But then eventually he was like, can you please stop asking Alexa what time it is at 2 a.m?
Good thing you weren't sharing a room with anyone at that during this time.
Well, this carried on into marriage. For the first, like, month or so, she'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, Alexa, what time is it? It is 3 a.m. in the morning. And I'd be like, shut up. I love you, but stop. I don't need to know what time it is in the morning. Neither do you.
It's dark outside, which means you should be sleeping.
Now we're not allowed to have any Alexas.
Or Google anything because I don't want to know what time it is.
What was your... Keep it short.
Like you?
What?
Nothing.
What'd you say?
Our listeners will get it.
What was your favorite part of your engagement season?
I guess I kind of lumped dating and engagement in the same.
Oh, okay. Great. Really good at time. Okay. Now, what has been your favorite part of marriage thus far?
Does marriage and parenting get lumped into one?
If you want to, it's your episode. Mikela, you do whatever you want.
I really love seeing Shon be a dad. I assume it's been mentioned at some point in the podcast, previous ones, that we have twin boys and a little girl. And seeing how much Shon loves our kids and adores spending time with them and seeing everything that they do and say. I just really cherish those moments, and it makes me love him more, seeing how much he loves our kids and loves being a dad. And then as far as just marriage goes, without parenting, just laughing together. I like that no part of our lives are separated off from each other. Like, we have access to every part of each other's lives, and there's just a lot of laughter that comes in all different ways with that.
Yeah. I'd say something similar, but I love just watching Mikela be a mom. I can tell that, like, she said that has been her dream for as long as she can remember, to be a stay-at-home mom. And I get to witness that every day with the boys and with Chloe. And so that, and just how patient and understanding she is. I'm a big dreamer, big thinker, and I was just telling her the other night how much I love that I don't think anyone else in the world would have that level of patience, understanding, as well as the faith that it takes to go after a lot of the crazy things that I believe the Lord puts on my heart. And so she's just such a wonderful, supporting, loving, kind, and affectionate wife that truly brightens my day. On the hard days, on the good days, she makes them even greater. And so truly, after all those years of praying for my wife, I discovered that she has been the answer to that prayer time after time after time after time after time. And no one else would have been able to be that answer. So that's what I love, is I get to witness the answer to my prayers every day I wake up. And it just shows how good God is. And there's so many other things I could say, which I imagine I'll get to touch on at some point in time later on down the road. So I'm excited to tell people because I love bragging about my wife.
Does she have a firm handshake?
She does have a very firm handshake. She bruised my wrist one time.
That's so good here. Shon had a long list of things that we...
See, I didn't bring it up this time.
No, it's one of my favorite ways to like explain you. Like friends. And so in his list he would talk about it, and like at first it'd be like, oh yeah, okay then, like yeah, that's a good quality, and then it'd be like, what? The only example I ever share is how he'd be like, I wanted to have feminine hands, delicate feminine hands, but like a really firm handshake. It was like, it got to and he got everything he had said he wanted.
I did.
But sometimes if you looked at it a certain way, it'd be like, you're saying one thing, saying the complete opposite. So for a long time before Mikela came along, I'm pretty sure I don't know if the other siblings came along with it, but I would tease Shon, like, I want my wife to be blonde but brunette. She is blonde. I don't think he ever said the brunette thing. Okay, final thing. We're gonna do speed lightning.
Oh boy, you're serious about that. I thought you were kidding.
She was joking earlier. What color are my eyes?
I was like, her hazel. No, who's your favorite sibling?
That one right there.
Now subscribe.
Do you know her full name?
Debra Carolyn.
Okay, and that's the end of lightning.
Oh, there's only one question. Wow. My goodness.
Lightning. Over fast.
Well, thank you, Debra, for interviewing me and Mikela for our episode of Welcome to the Medins. It's a lot of fun to have you do this. I think I might ask you to do this a little more often. Waving out her pits. By the way,
I love talking.
She is so good at it. But thank you, Debra, for being willing to do that. I know it wasn't your first choice, but you are wonderful at it. So thank you. If you all want to keep getting to watch these episodes and keep getting to learn about the different family members, like Debra, we have an episode that's going to be coming up where we interview her.
Yeah, wait, let me just add. Sorry.
Oh.
Shon said, when he brought up this idea of interviewing all the siblings, he's like, yeah, so we're going to interview the sibling with their significant other, Debra.
I think he worded it each of the families and Debra.
Do you have any friends? Would your friends maybe want to join? Since you don't really have a significant other. Cheers.
Which we're believing for a great one. So I believe he's coming. If you come by the time we record her episode in May,
you'll be joined with my friends because my friends are.
So it won't just be you.
But you'll get to be there awkwardly sitting on the side. And we'll just have a camera on you, not saying a thing. But you'll get to meet Debra and hear about Debra through all of her friends, which I think is going to be great because Debra is pretty entertaining. And I've met her friends, and they are also very entertaining, which I'm sure they are going to love to hear in this episode. So I'm looking forward to talking with you. But if you want to keep up with what we're doing, as well as be a part of the Medins, and this is really what it's about, is opening a door for you to join our family. Welcome to the Medins. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube page. Our YouTube page. Yeah, they are kind of hard. Welcome to the Medins. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram at Welcome to the Medins. And, comment if there's anything you'd like to know more about us, about individuals, about the family as a whole. I have some different ideas coming up of some cool or just kind of fun, odd videos that we'll be doing around the house so people can see more of the inner workings of what it's like living in a household full of people, full of different individual families that make a large one. keep following us and let us know, what you want to know, because that's what we'll tell you. And if you're like, we want to see a cooking episode,
Sean's very excited to make cookies for
that's
everyone.
true. And I think that might follow one of these.
If you want
episodes
anything other than a cooking episode, don't comment.
I was gonna say let us know.
Yes, let someone know. But subscribe to our YouTube page, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. We look forward to getting to hang out with you guys again. In the next episode, we're going to be interviewing Drew and Hannah. So for those of you who don't know how intimidating Drew is,
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you want to see how intimidating Drew is,
interview him with his wife. You'll see actually how big of a teddy bear he is and how much fun they are. They'll bust your gut with how hard they'll make you laugh. And we'll have the part 2 of Mom and Dad's interview, and then after that we have Catherine and Tyler, Sarah and James. Hopefully we can get them in before their baby's born, or else I don't think we're going to hear from Sarah for
ever again.
Yeah.
Then we get Debra and her friends, and then Damon and Brianna, and we'll get back in with we'll get the big family together and get to hear more fun stories as well as see those inner workings. So thank you for watching this episode of Welcome to Medins, and we are looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.